Have you ever experienced a sense of unease in your life without being able to pinpoint the cause? It may feel like despite your best efforts to progress, you are continually drawn back into familiar mistakes, destructive patterns, and frustrating cycles. This could be attributed to your inner voice, sabotaging you at crucial moments, urging you to abandon your pursuits, just as you are on the brink of achieving something significant. Additionally, irrational anger may unexpectedly manifest in situations that, in hindsight, were not as grave as they seemed. There may be unacknowledged envy simmering within you in witnessing others achieve what you secretly desire, or a paralyzing fear of failure leading you to make excuses and procrastinate. Unbeknownst to you, these challenges are not mere coincidences, but rather the influence of a hidden force within your psyche known as the shadow. The shadow encompasses repressed desires, weaknesses, shallowness, and darkest emotions that you buried to conform to societal expectations. However, by ignoring this aspect of yourself, you unwittingly grant it power over your thoughts, reactions, and decision-making. The more you reject the shadow, the more it thrives in the depths of your subconscious, awaiting an opportunity to resurface unexpectedly, triggering emotional outbursts or unexplained behavior. You distance yourself from loved ones and later question your constant solitude when you judge others with animosity, oblivious to the projection of your own inner fears onto them. By purposefully sabotaging yourself and convincing yourself that you were never capable enough to truly strive for success, you declare yourself unworthy. Jung expressed that until you bring your unconscious thoughts to consciousness, they will shape your life, perceived as destiny. If you avoid confronting your shadow, it will continue to manipulate from behind the scenes while you remain unaware, attributing everything to chance. Yet, if you possess the courage to introspect and confront what you've long evaded, you can transmute your shadow into your greatest strength. Prepare yourself for a challenging journey ahead. Should you genuinely aspire to break the self-destructive cycle and seize control over your life, this path is your sole solution. Let's begin music. Since your inception, societal standards have instilled within you the notion of what is deemed acceptable and unacceptable. Early on, you absorbed the belief that certain emotions ought to be displayed while others should be suppressed. Perhaps unconsciously, you were met with admonitions such as, stop crying, don't show weakness, restrain your anger, exhibit benevolence, avoid selfishness, and practice sharing. Gradually, parts of yourself, such as your anger, sadness, and urge for assertion, were stifled. What became of those feelings that did not align with society's ideal image of a virtuous individual? They did not vanish, but were forced deep into the recesses of your being. The shadow, as described by Carl Jung, represents the unconscious part of your personality where suppressed feelings, desires, and impulses reside due to society's unacceptance. It operates discreetly within your mind, surfacing when you find yourself uneasy in the presence of overly confident individuals. The shadow reflects inner desires you have concealed beneath layers of denial, leading to envy towards others' success or harsh criticism fueled by repressed ambitions. Ignoring this hidden aspect only fuels its destructive influence, manifesting in irrational fears, repeated mistakes, unexplained resentment, and toxic behavior patterns. Acknowledging and understanding the role of the shadow is crucial, as its subtle manipulation can unknowingly steer your life in ways you may not comprehend. Shadow's subtle and destructive influence. Unbeknownst to you, your shadow exerts its influence in subtle yet destructive ways. Once you become aware of its workings, you can no longer turn a blind eye. Have you ever pondered why certain patterns persist in your life, despite your efforts to break free? Why do feelings of anger, envy, or fear arise within you without a clear cause? It all stems from your awake and active shadow, stealthily pulling the strings without your conscious consent. Unlike an overt assailant, the shadow operates quietly, slyly shaping your emotions, decisions, and responses like a hidden specter within you, distorting your perception of reality. You may believe you steer your own course, but in truth, you are guided by concealed impulses long buried in your psyche. One prevalent manifestation of the shadow is projection. Have you ever harbored an unexplained animosity toward someone or critiqued another fervently without valid grounds? Such sentiments often stem from our reluctance to acknowledge undesirable traits within ourselves. For instance, an individual taught to suppress their ambition might irrationally resent those pursuing success. Similarly, someone grappling with inner aggression may direct their ire towards individuals who embody directness and assertiveness. By projecting these disowned traits onto others, they deflect self-awareness and instead launch unfounded attacks. Another damaging aspect of the shadow is self-sabotage. This destructive behavior pattern emerges when, unconsciously, you erect barriers to your personal growth, hindering your advancement. Procrastination and self-imposed obstacles become commonplace, impeding your journey towards self-realization. In crucial moments, premature surrender and repetitive poor decision-making often stem from a part of oneself, harboring a belief in unworthiness of success or a fear of change. Consequently, numerous individuals falter just as they approach a significant achievement. An unseen force, the shadow, assumes the role of an invisible guardian, thwarting attempts to depart from one's comfort zone, even if that comfort zone reflects one's own unhappiness. The shadow's influence is not confined solely to personal boundaries. It also permeates relationships. Have you observed how certain individuals consistently attract similar types of toxic partners or find themselves ensnared in damaging friendships? This pattern emerges due to the inadvertent projection of one's traumas, subconsciously seeking out situations that reinforce one's deepest apprehensions. Should your shadow be tainted with rejection, you might gravitate towards individuals who perpetuate feelings of rejection. Similarly, if your shadow encompasses insecurity, you may form connections with individuals who consistently undermine your self-worth. Regrettably, the shadow possesses the capacity to overshadow your identity without your awareness, prompting the detrimental belief that your behavior and emotions are inherently natural, despite being influenced by suppressed experiences. This distorted perspective can lead you to believe in a narrative of perpetual misfortune, chronic anxiety, and perpetual inadequacy, all under the grip of this concealed aspect of yourself. If the shadow exerts considerable control over you, the pertinent inquiry stands: how does one identify the indicators of its dominance and subsequently combat its influence? In the upcoming section, we will explore the distinct and unmistakable indicators that your shadow self is orchestrating your life behind the scenes, unbeknownst to you. Once you recognize these signs, it will be impossible to deny the presence of your shadow music. If you find yourself trapped in repetitive patterns, constantly battling feelings of frustration, anxiety, or struggling to amend certain behaviors, there is a strong likelihood that your shadow is exerting control on your life without your awareness. But how can you be certain? How can you pinpoint the signals that this concealed aspect of your psyche is dictating your decisions and silently undermining your life? The primary telltale sign of the shadow's influence is consistent projection. Have you ever observed that certain individuals tend to trigger heightened irritation within you, beyond what would normally be expected? Certain characteristics in others may elicit an unbalanced emotional response from you. This occurs because the shadow causes you to perceive in others the aspects of yourself that you refuse to acknowledge. For instance, someone who suppresses their own desire for attention might harbor an irrational disdain for individuals who express themselves freely. Similarly, an individual who rejects their own aggressiveness could find themselves excessively bothered by those who are direct and assertive. The challenge lies in failing to recognize that this irritation stems from within yourself, leading you to blame the external world for internal conflicts. Another indication that the shadow is at play is persistent self-sabotage. Have you ever been on the brink of accomplishing a goal only to witness everything fall apart suddenly, as if somehow you have been undermining your own progress, possibly due to the shadow's fear of change? If you were conditioned to believe that you are unworthy of success, love, or happiness at some point in your life, this deep-seated belief will persist in the depths of your mind. It will subtly work to ensure that you do not exceed these imposed limits. This is why many individuals tend to give up just when they are on the brink of achieving something meaningful. Another sign of an unrestrained shadow is a recurrent attraction to unhealthy relationships. If you consistently find yourself entangled with individuals who belittle, disregard, or exploit you, it is not mere chance. There is a part of you that craves this dynamic, even if you are unaware of it. If you faced rejection during your formative years, you might inadvertently seek out people who mirror that rejection throughout your life. Similarly, if you were raised to suppress your anger, you might be drawn to those who take advantage of your patience, as your shadow subconsciously seeks to release that pent-up energy indirectly. Furthermore, an indication that the shadow has taken control of your life is an irrational fear of criticism. Do you harbor a deep dread of being judged? Do you go to great lengths to avoid putting yourself in vulnerable situations, fearing ridicule? If so, your shadow may be laden with suppressed shame. You may have internalized the belief that making errors is intolerable, and that revealing your true self entails risking rejection. Consequently, you might have spent your life defensively, constantly striving to please others and evading any possibility of being perceived as flawed. This fear, however, stems not from an inherent tendency, but from a learned behavior. The present is a mere shadow of the past, a remnant of everything that has been denied and buried within you. One of the cruel signs of the shadow is the inexplicable emptiness. Have you ever felt that something is missing in your life, even when everything seems fine in theory? It's as if there is a part of you that is never satisfied, always feeling that something essential is absent. This sensation arises because, throughout your life, you needed to amputate parts of yourself to be accepted by the world. You repressed your true desires, your deepest ambitions, your authenticity, and now, even without realizing it, you feel the weight of that absence. But if these signs resonate with you, it does not mean that all is lost. On the contrary, recognizing the shadow is the first step to regaining control of your life. The real danger is not having a shadow, as we all do. The danger lies in continuing to live without awareness of it. However, now comes the pivotal question. What happens if you continue to ignore your shadow? What happens when it becomes so repressed that it explodes in unpredictable and destructive ways? In the next segment, we will explore the cost of living in denial and why ignoring your shadow may be the biggest mistake of your life. The shadow you ignore does not disappear. It accumulates, strengthens, and weighs on you. The more you deny it, the more it finds ways to manifest itself. And if you do not take control, these manifestations can become catastrophic. You can spend years pretending that certain emotions and impulses do not exist, but there will come a time when everything that has. Rewritten text. Suppressing what has been repressed will inevitably resurface, forcing you to confront the ensuing consequences. One of the most significant risks of neglecting your shadow self is its ability to ultimately break free. Unaddressed anger may unleash itself unexpectedly, damaging relationships and opportunities in its wake. Similarly, burying deep-seated desires can lead to self-destructive behaviors such as addiction, compulsion, or excess. Unresolved traumas, if left unattended, may manifest as anxiety, crisis, panic attacks, or inexplicable physical ailments. It is crucial to recognize that the effects of the shadow are not limited to one's inner world. They profoundly influence one's reality. Failure to acknowledge a fear of abandonment may result in clinging to toxic relationships to avoid the discomfort of solitude. Denying personal ambition could lead to self-sabotage in one's professional endeavors. convincing oneself that success is unattainable. Ignoring one's desires may result in pervasive frustration, leaving one feeling dissatisfied with life. Perhaps the gravest peril of all lies in the failure to integrate one's shadow self, as it risks assuming complete control over one's existence. Have you encountered individuals consumed by resentment, perpetual blame towards others, or silent anger, always on the defensive? These individuals did not emerge this way. They spent a lifetime suppressing their pain until their shadows overshadowed them. The outcome is a relentless cycle of resentment, fear, and self-sabotage, underscoring the profound repercussions of allowing one's shadow self to reign unchecked. Depersonalization is the experience of feeling like a stranger within your own body, as if you are disconnected from your true self. This occurs when you repress your shadow, which in turn suppresses essential aspects of your being. By striving to only show your good side and eradicating any hint of darkness, you unknowingly cut out crucial pieces of your psyche. Consequently, you may consistently feel a sense of emptiness, as though a part of you is absent, yet you struggle to identify what that missing element is. This raises the inevitable question: how can one break free from this ongoing cycle? How can you cease being a victim of your shadow and begin consciously integrating it? In the following section, you will uncover the tools to transform your shadow from a concealed adversary into a potent ally, enabling you to finally master your own life. Now that you comprehend the perils of disregarding your shadow, the pivotal query emerges: how can you bring it to light? How can you cease being controlled by these covert facets of your psyche and learn to leverage them to your benefit? Integrating the shadow does not entail obliterating or eliminating it, as that is unachievable. Instead, as taught by Jung, the shadow is not an enemy. Rather, it harbors vital aspects of our dormant potential that can evolve into our greatest strength if we learn how to harness them. The crux of the issue has never been the shadow itself, but rather our reluctance to acknowledge its existence. The initial step towards integrating the shadow is to consciously acknowledge it by being attentive to your emotional responses when something or someone triggers an intense reaction within you. Reflect instead of blaming others when feeling irritated by someone's arrogance. Consider if that person is merely expressing confidence you have suppressed. If you harbor contempt towards those pursuing success, acknowledge the part of you that desires the same but is inhibited by limiting beliefs. Allow yourself to acknowledge and experience suppressed emotions such as anger and envy without fear. Embrace these feelings as part of yourself, understanding that denying them empowers the shadow within. Engage in reflective writing by uncensoredly jotting down your deepest thoughts, exploring aspects of yourself you reject and behaviors you harshly judge in others. Confront your fears through this process to liberate yourself by shedding light on your shadow. Practice visualization and internal dialogue, conversing with your shadow as a separate entity to gain insight into its nature and messages. When we confront our shadow, we often realize it is not a monster, but a forgotten aspect of ourselves seeking to be acknowledged. Integrating the shadow is a gradual journey that demands courage and honesty. It is essential to comprehend that our darkness need not be our enemy. Repressed anger can morph into strength, fear into wisdom, and desire into creativity. Everything denied can be repurposed as fuel for personal growth. Now that you understand how to initiate the process of integrating your shadow, one might wonder why so few possess the courage to introspect. In the following section, we will delve into why many opt for denial and illusion, and how you can stand out as an exception by awakening to your true self. You are already aware that your shadow dwells within you, whether you embrace it or not. You have the choice to either deny its existence and overlook its impact on your life, or bravely delve within to reclaim command over your psyche. However, before proceeding, it is crucial to acknowledge that most individuals will avoid this inner work. They will persist in repeating their errors, trapped in self-sabotaging cycles, and pointing fingers at the world for their predicaments. They will remain ensnared in the past, nurturing grievances, projecting frustrations onto others, and convincing themselves that fate or society is to blame for their shortcomings. They may never find the courage to confront the truth about themselves, but you do. If you have come this far and followed every part of this journey, it means something inside you recognizes the need for change. You are weary of being ensnared by unconscious patterns, tired of feeling controlled by incomprehensible forces. This indicates that you are prepared to take a step that few dare to take, to embrace your shadow and become your true self. However, do not be deceived. This path is challenging. Confronting your shadow entails relinquishing the comfortable illusion that you already know everything about yourself. It involves facing past pains, acknowledging uncomfortable truths, and accepting that much of what transpires in your life is your own responsibility. While this process can be uneasy, it is the only genuine path to liberation.